We're all with you on the Daily Line, and it's a Thursday, so that means the Wizard of Odds, the one and only Kenny White, looking sharp as ever, joins us right now. Kenny, we missed you last week for Turkey Day. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And let's jump right into the first game on the slate, the Pac-12 Championship. We know how much is on the line in this one, with Utah laying 6.5 against Oregon. Supposed to be a little bit rainy out in the Bay Area. So what's your feel about tomorrow night's showdown in the Pac-12?
Yeah, glad to be back with you guys after a great weekend. It is going to be rainy, but more importantly, windy, very windy in the Bay Area and Santa Clara. So this field's been rained on quite a bit over the last 2 weeks now, and it got beat up a little bit last week. This is a game that defense may rule the day here just because of the surface, and that I think that's going to help Utah out just slightly. But I didn't make the game that high. Only made Utah a 4.5-point favorite in this contest, and this was my team, the Utes, at the beginning of the year. They were my long shot to win the national championship. So there's still life. I hope they have a big game, and I hope they make it to the Final Four. But I think it's going to be about defense because of the weather. I played the game under 48.5. I'm looking at 45.5 now. I still think there's value there because of that weather. It's going to be very difficult to throw. You know what? Both teams like to run anyway. They both run more than 60% of the time. And Utah, the slowest team in football between plays in college, 32 seconds in between their plays.
Hey, Kenny, this is Jinx. I have to tell you, I told this story earlier that last week I really needed Alabama because of this pool I'm in, where I've done fairly well throughout the season, in the top 20 in the country. And then I saw your pick with Auburn, and I lost my mind. I thought, no, I can't believe it. Of all the times to be on the wrong side. So it was very funny to see you pop up with your pick, and knew that I wasn't probably going to fare well in that spot. So with that said, let's look ahead to the SEC Championship this week. Who do you like? Right now, it looks like LSU minus 6.5.
You know, I don't have a play on the side. I made LSU a 7.5-point favorite, so I think they have the right number. Now, if the betting comes in, you know, this week there's only 10 games. So I always say, if you're making your numbers, bet early because you're going to get a good number and you'll be ahead of the general public. But I think this weekend is more like a Super Bowl weekend where general public money could end up swaying the numbers and moving these. So especially if you like an underdog, I would say wait as long as possible. If you like Georgia, I think you might get 8.5 or 9 points come game time because so much is going to be made out of Cager not playing at wide receiver, their second best wide receiver, a freshman, out the first half, and DeAndre Swift banged up. But none of those guys mean anything because Georgia has so many athletes. I think the game's going to go over the total, playing indoors, good weather. LSU's offense, I don't know, it's unstoppable. Their defense has been rather average, though. They've been number 48 in the country over the last 6 weeks in yards per play allowed. 48th LSU's defense. So they're going to give up points. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. A lot of points. I went over 55.
Kenny, it hasn't been the most profitable for me ever to bet against Ohio State, but they're laying 16.5 in the Big Ten Championship against Wisconsin. Do you have a play on this game?
Yeah, I do. I hate betting against Ohio State too, but the number is so big, and I think Jonathan Taylor will have a big day. I trust Paul Chryst and his coaching staff. They say this: the teams learn more from a loss than they do a win any day, and I believe that's very true. So I think Wisconsin learned a lot about themselves. You learn about your weaknesses, and Wisconsin got a good chance to learn where they're weak at and what they need to do better to be able to battle Ohio State. And they've gotten back to that point. And since that time that they lost to Ohio State, they've won 4 straight games. They've scored 37 or more in 3 of the 4. I think the offense has finally got it going, and I think that this number is just definitely too high. It was 14.5 in Columbus. And that's a 6 to 7 point home field. That is a very strong home field advantage. So at that point, Ohio State was about an 8.5, 9 point better team than Wisconsin. Now we're looking at 17 on a neutral field versus a team with revenge. I like Wisconsin in the game. I think they stay close because they got the running back.
At KYD Vegas is where you can follow Kenny on Twitter. A great follow. He joins us every single week, and he's done so throughout the college football season. Kenny, noon Eastern kick at Jerry's World. You've got Oklahoma and Baylor. It wasn't too long ago in Waco. It was a 25-point lead, washed away, and Oklahoma came back to win. The one thing that I've been, kind of looking at is CeeDee Lamb didn't play in that game for Oklahoma. He will be playing, of course, on Saturday. Still a pretty big number for Oklahoma if you want to lay it. So what's your feel on the Big 12 title game?
Yeah, again, another game that I feel like a team learned a lot about themselves in that loss. After getting out to a 28-3 lead, I think they thought they had the game won and didn't realize how good Oklahoma actually was. So maybe Oklahoma comes in a little fat and happy, knowing, hey, we were down 25 and beat these guys. We'll beat them again. So Baylor's defense is the better defense. I always like that type of situation. When you can get the better defense, getting points in a revenge situation on a neutral, even better. Baylor's been the 14th best defense in college football over the last 6 weeks. Oklahoma number 44. So big difference in the defenses. I'll take Baylor plus the points there.
Kenny, this is Jinx again as we talk to Kenny White, the CEO of Kenny White Sports, the Wizard of Odds. Is a huge number in the ACC. Clemson laying 28.5 against Virginia. Is that too much?
No. May not be enough for is that the first half number, Jinx?
It might be.
This is, I'm Bronco Mendenhall is one of my favorite coaches, and he really did a really good job with Virginia this year to win their side of the conference. Amazing. And then to beat Virginia Tech, who they've lost 15 straight years to. Amazing again, but this defense is banged up. We know Virginia, when you think of Bronco Mendenhall, you think of defense. They're number 85 in the country the last 6 weeks. They've been allowing gigantic numbers, 30, 27, 28, 31, and 28. And none of those teams' name is Clemson. So Clemson's going to put up a huge number in this game. It just all depends on what Dabo calls off the dogs in it. But I think Clemson's a good play in the first half. I think they can be up 28-0 or 35-0 at halftime.
Kenny, this is a more generic question of course, your incredible power ratings for college football. But when you look at championship week and beyond, and for games like this, how much does coaching come into play? Does the neutral site come into play compared to the regular, beginning of the season type of college football games?
Yeah, no, it's big, Sarah. The neutral sites are big because you got to try to figure out who's traveling and who will have more fans, because home advantage really isn't just because you're home. Home advantage is who has more fans, who yells louder, who causes the officials to call penalties against the opponent. That's all really home field advantage is you have an advantage in the penalties in the game. So coaching is very, very big. I like to go against inexperienced coaches because they're not used to this, extra time to prepare for a game. This week's not, because it really doesn't matter. But a guy like Appalachian State, Eli Drinkwitz, first year as the head coach, when he gets to a bowl game, it'll be a little different. I really don't want to back a guy that's in his first year playing in a bowl game off 3-4 weeks. I'd rather back someone who's been successful under this situation.
Talking once again to Kenny White. Kenny, a really important game. I mean, obviously all these games are for conference championships, but the winner of this game likely will grab the Group of 5 bid in the New Year's Six. That's the AAC Championship game, and we saw it last week. Cincinnati went to Memphis, lost by 10, and we get the game again. Cincinnati's at Memphis, and Memphis is laying 9.5. So is it rinse repeat for the Memphis Tigers?
No, I don't think so. Last week, I had Cincinnati last week. It was probably my best play of the weekend, and I was shocked the line was 14. I don't know how it could be 14. Memphis has done well over the last 4 years, so they've built up a little bigger fan base. But this used to be one of my best teams to bet against at home because the Liberty Bowl is so big. Mm-hmm. And they only had 15,000, 20,000 people showing up to games, so they had really no home field. So when they would play like a Mississippi would bring in 30,000 people. It'd be their home field, what we just talked about. So Cincinnati's 7 hours away. I thought they would bring some fans to the game and almost have just as many as Memphis. I took the 14 right before kickoff. They tell me Desmond Ritter's not going to play for Cincinnati. So my thought was, well, Luke Fickell is holding him out because they've already clinched the championship game and he doesn't want to get his quarterback hurt. I was wrong about that. His quarterback was hurt already, had a sore shoulder, but Ritter said he could have played last week, and he wanted to play, but Fickell wanted to make sure he was healthy. So an extra week for Ritter. It's a 6-point difference between Ritter and Bryant. 6 points. That's how much the difference is. So, and they were within 10 last week. Bryant had a couple interceptions that helped really Memphis seal the deal. I think this is a really good game. I think Cincinnati can win this game straight up.
At KYD Vegas on Twitter. He's the Wizard of Odds. He joins us every week in this spot. Kenny, you're the man. Enjoy championship weekend.
Thank you, guys.